I haven't had time to do a video regarding this new minstrel show called Straight Out of Compton, the bio picture about the rise of these minstrels with attitude. And the reason why I haven't had time to do that is because I was busy writing the Temptation of John Haynes sequel, and I had better things to do with my time. Since I have a minute, I'm gonna tell you why this NWA is a completely dysfunctional group of idiots. Um, Before the NWA came to the scene, hip hop was completely different. In the genre of music, it was very unique. There were many different rap acts you had, and everybody pretty much expressed themselves with their own style and their own voice. Your Cool G rap was different from your LL Cool J. Your LL Cool J was different from your Big Daddy Kane. Um, your KRS-One was completely different from all of these. And you had other rap groups, like in the UK, you had your Cookie Crews. You had women rappers like your MC Light. You had your Queen Latifahs. And they were rapping positive and talking about the things that black people could do. And before this, in the golden age, in the early days of hip hop, you had when it was founded here in the Bronx, you had guys like your Cool Herc and your Africa Bombadas and your Cool Modis, and again, rap was very positive, and they all talked about empowerment, group economics, and they were all talking about building and empowering themselves through the music form. And yes, there were political rappers, such as your KRS-One and your Chuck D of Public Enemy, and they talked about police brutality. They talked about racism in their music. So there was nothing like the white liberals been saying that the NWA revolutionized that. 2 years before that, '87, I remember Public Enemy making these type of records, and I remember in '88 KRS-One came out with the classic Self-Destruction, where he talked about black on black crime. Now I want you to go to YouTube, type in Self-Destruction. That video will come up, and you will see a group of rappers working together to talk about black on black crime. And all this was 25 years ago. But then in 1989, because I remember I was in high school, this NWA CD comes out, this Straight Out of Compton, this minstrel show, and we're told that these guys are revolutionary, these guys are radical, and there was nothing radical about them at all. What was really radical about them is that they fit a narrative that the white liberal wanted to hear regarding the Negro. That is all that was radical about the NWA. Because again, KRS-One and Chuck D were rapping about many of the same issues that they talked about in their songs like F the Police and other NWA songs. KRS-One and Chuck D were talking about this in their own music on a regular basis. And more importantly, these guys would go to city council meetings and they would talk to politicians about these issues. So these guys were more active, regarding these issues than your NWA. Your NWA, pretty much, yes, they were rapping, and they were mostly a gimmick. And their gimmick was using profanity, getting in the face of law enforcement, acting a fool. And pretty much what their gimmick was, being a buck dancing, bojangling, tap dancing, shoe shining minstrel for masses of what black and non-black audiences. And that was their gimmick. And many Negroes, fell for their gimmick, not understanding that, the joke was really on them. Because what the white liberal has always wanted to do with black culture is co-opt it so he can control it. And he needed the right person to do that. You see, the old school rappers pretty much understood the game, and they understood how important rap was, because these were the guys, they had to make their own they're not CDs, their own records. They had to, build their own businesses for themselves, and they had a hard time getting their records even sold in stores. A lot of these guys had to sell, if they sold records, they had to sell them in places like your Record Shack that Shakulu Shang had back in the day in Harlem, or they had to go, take them to different parties. This is the way, rap got distributed. It was not a mainstream thing. It was, you literally, nobody white wanted to touch rap music at all. I mean, I remember when they started playing it in 1985, finally on black-owned radio stations, such as your Kiss FM and your WBLS back in the day. And these songs they got play, here and there, and they got, the videos got played on, broadcast channels like your U68, um, here in New York, now and again. And they weren't seen that often. And then you had shows like your Video Music Box and your video tracks that was played on NYE, and they only got played. They didn't get played that much, and nobody really wanted to distribute rap albums until black people started making money off of them. Then people wanted to get involved, and then when they saw it starting to get popular, again, here comes the white liberal. He wants rap, but he doesn't want the rap that fits the black narrative. He wants the rap that fits the white narrative, and this is what he wanted from from the jump. He wanted a rap that fit his narrative, and that's when we get this NWA, because the NWA pretty much fit the white liberals' narrative regarding black people. If you look at the images of old school hip hop, most of the men wore their pants to fit. Most of the men would look like men. But if you look at the NWA, these were the guys running around in sagging pants. They looked like convicts. They looked like prisoners. They all wore black. They all, were sprouting profanities, and they talked in street slang. Whereas in contrast, your other rappers like your KS1, your Chuck D, they spoke very articulately and they spoke very intelligently, just like I'm speaking to you now. Whereas your Ice Cubes and your Dr. Dre's and your Easy E's, they were all foul-mouthed apes who pretty much, could not hold a coherent conversation, because all you have to do is go look up an old Oprah Winfrey show, and you can see how your Ice Coon pretty much acts on the air. I mean, the guy was, he was pretty much a savage on screen. And this, again, fits the narrative that the white liberal wanted to see regarding black men. Because here's this guy with Jerry curl juice dripping out of his hair. He can't speak in a coherent sentence. And this is what the white liberal wanted to see regarding black people. And this was in a time, in contrast. I'm going to give you another contrast. You had MC Hammer on the scene. And MC Hammer, again, another rapper who presented a very articulate and intelligent way of speaking. He was a very talented performer. And another, rapper who not only who came out of the military, hardworking professional, produced his own records, had his own record label, and was doing his own thing, and came up because his music was that good. And again, MC Hammer, again, does not fit the white liberals' narrative. The white liberal did not like MC Hammer. And the whole thing that was really sad about what happened to MC Hammer was that the white liberal, when he hijacked hip hop, pretty much got people to turn on MC Hammer. He had people believing that MC Hammer was a sellout. And the irony was, the NWA, those were the sellouts. Those were the Uncle Toms. But they had people back as far as 1991 when believing that MC Hammer was a sellout, MC Hammer was an Uncle Tom, but MC Hammer was trying to employ his own people to the point where he went bankrupt. He was trying to support his own community and use his talents to improve his own community. What did the NWA do for the Negro? I mean, that was a question Negro has not asked in 25, 30 years. He has not asked, what has the NWA done for the Negro? NWA, for all intents and purposes, a lot compromised hip hop and a lot and revolutionized it in a way that all they did was breathe new life into old stereotypes and make hip hop into start on its decline into this new modern day minstrel show that it has become. Because I remember in '91 when Hammer was part of the All in the Same Gang CD and they had him on the video and everything, then they just cut him out because Negroes believed MC Hammer was an Uncle Tom and a sellout. And how was MC Hammer and Uncle Tom and a sellout? I mean, I still don't get it to this day. But we're told that MC Hammer was an Uncle Tom and a sellout. And this guy pretty much did everything he could to help black people. And people look at this, hip hop, and they look at this NWA. I look at these NWA again. I look at them as a bunch of minstrels and shines who pretty much, again, hijacked hip hop to fit that narrative of this white liberal. And the white liberal's narrative, again, all you have to do is go look at the blaxploitation films, look at the television shows of the 1970s, and even go back to the 1930s. You will see a similar narrative in each. You will see dysfunctional black men confused, dysfunctional black men committing crimes, talking about being in the streets, talking about how hard it is, and all the music from NWA pretty much follows the same victimized narrative that this white liberal has been perpetuating regarding this Negro for the last 40 years. And this is what happened. You see, the old school hip hop was pretty much about empowerment or having fun at a party or being the best lyricist, or it was about something different. Whereas your gangster rap pretty much follows the same narrative that this white liberal has been perpetuating regarding this Negro, that he's a poor, miserable, downtrodden victim, that life is so hard for the Negro because of the ongoing legacies of slavery or white supremacy or racism, that, he's always having encounters with white cops, or, he's always having a beef with some other Negro, or he's always talking about drugs or crime. Again, all of this fits within the narrative of this white liberal and the white liberal's view of this Afro-American Negro. But this Negro, he has no critical thinking skills, so he can't say to himself, you know what, everything that comes out of Hollywood, follows a similar theme and fits within a certain narrative and fits within a certain viewpoint. And if you look at your NWA, your Two Live Coons, your Tupac Shakurs, your Notorious B.I.G.'s, your Jay-Z's, or any of these other rappers who have come out since the NWA have made their debut, they all follow a similar narrative, they all fit within a certain theme, and they all preach victimology to this Afro-American Negro. And this Negro, because he doesn't have an identity of his own, because he doesn't have, in most cases, a father in his life to teach him manhood, he then, tries to emulate these monkeys, and not understanding that, this narrative that's being presented to him is not his narrative. This narrative is what the white liberal wants him to be. He wants him to perpetuate these stereotypes and live this narrative of victimology, because he knows if, as long as a Negro believes that he is a victim, he has $3.3 trillion in his pocket, from his Nike sneaker, Air Jordan tennis shoes, his jeans, his gold chains. He's going to make a boatload of money off of this Negro. And this is what happened. This is one of the other reasons why they wanted the NWA to come out, because they wanted to get that money from the Negro. See, they saw, those starter jackets. Back in the day, there was a starter jacket. It was a coach's jacket, really. And they saw people buying the starter jackets, the fitted caps, and they saw the money, coming, and they wanted to make sure that that stream of money, flowed right from the Negro's pocket, in a steady basis. And they didn't want, the Negro to start thinking like these old school rappers, let me go get my own line, let me get my own business. No, they wanted to make sure that this Negro, he was a regular customer. So this is what the white liberal did. He wanted to make sure he had rap acts that would continuously guarantee him a stream of money. And this is what was done. They wanted to make sure they control the message of the music, and two, control the entertainers who produced the music. And this is what the white liberal wanted to do from day one. He wanted to pretty much, take control of this art form, because if black people control the art form, they could control whose product they used, whose product they sponsored, and, the more importantly, the message of the music and the theme of the music. And, if you control the message and you fund the message, you pretty much can tell everybody what to do. And this is what was happening with hip hop. Your NWA was brought in, these Uncle Toms were brought in to co-opt the message, and they have taken the message and made it one to fit the white liberals' narrative, and one that pretty much breathes new life in the new stereotypes and allows a steady stream of $3.3 trillion in cash and credit to flow to this white liberal. And your Negro does not understand, how bad his hip-hop has devolved. He does not understood how bad his hip-hop has declined. I mean, you would have to literally be there from where I was when I was a kid back in the 1980s to understand how low this art form has fallen. This art form is pretty much hit rock bottom. Now, the old school rappers of the late 70s and early 80s often talked against gangs, and here we have rappers today talking about how they need to be in a gang in order to be a rapper. And this is how sad your Afro-American Negro is regarding his own art form. I mean, he is embracing the very things that guys like your Cool Herc and other old school rappers spoke against. He is for. Because I remember watching a Fox report on Channel 5 News. They were talking about how a lot of rappers today think that they have to be Bloods or Crips in order to be rappers. I mean, and it made me sad to think about it because I said many of the old school rappers spoke against gangs. Many of the old school rappers tried to help kids stay out of gangs, and they spoke against this type of thing. And they tried to teach people to be their own selves and to have their own identity. And rap music at one time was about having your own self and your own identity. I mean, I remember, again, all the diversity that was a part of hip hop back in the 80s. I mean, anybody, as long as you had good lyrics and good wordplay, people liked your lyrics and people liked your stuff. You could dance well, and you made a good video, people would buy your records. But today, everything is so monolithic. I mean, this is what I see in your hip hop. Everybody's wearing sagging pants. Everybody's wearing baggy t-shirts. Everybody's wearing fitted caps. Everybody's talking about how they're in a gang. Everybody's talking about how they killed somebody. Everybody's talking about how they sold dope. Everybody's talking about all these women that they've been with. Everybody's talking about the exact same things over and over and over again. Or they're talking about smoking blunts and all this other stuff. And the rap is not, it's not entertaining. It's not fun. It's just lame. It's just a bunch of lame guys, who look the same, act the same, and, say the same things. And it's monolithic. It's just everybody's the same. There's nothing original about anything these Negroes are, regarding this rap. And I look at, the sad decline, and I can pinpoint it right to that 1989 and that Straight Outta Compton minstrel show that came out. And everybody since then has been pretty much trying to copy these minstrels, with the same sagging pants, the same fitted caps. They dress in black or they dress in denim jeans. They're all pretty much the same. It's just monolithic. And this is what hip hop has become. And I look at, the same thing happened to female rappers, around 96, 97 when Little Kim came out with that hardcore, Jezebel show, where she's sitting up on the stage with her leg was squatting down in lingerie. And that also took hip hop for women in a bad direction, because I remember the Moni Loves, the MC Lights, and the Queen Latifahs and the positive images they presented regarding black women. And the whole thing is, the sad part is, the Negro sat there and let the white liberal co-opt and hijack his music and didn't say a single word regarding his art or his culture. And he pretty much sold his own culture and his own art for a song. I mean, this was our art form. We created it. And the sad part is, we created it in 78, and by about 89, 11 years, our art form was in the hands of this white liberal, and ever since, he has been using it to not only breathe new life into old stereotypes, but perpetuate old stereotypes regarding this Afro-American Negro. Because if you really look behind the surface of your Negroes with attitude, or right there, you're going to see repackaged brutes, repackaged coons, repackaged shines. And if you look past the surface of your Two Live coons, you would look at them, you would see again another stereotype regarding black males and black male sexuality. That's what Two Live coons were all about. These sexual deviants would get on stage and have sex with women. They perpetuated old stereotypes about Negroes having no self-control and no self-discipline. Same thing with your Negroes with attitude. They perpetuated stereotypes that the Negro was a foul-mouthed, ignorant, ape and a savage. This is what these groups did. They perpetuated, old stereotypes that fit within the narrative of this white liberal. This is why they got popular. Same thing with your notorious B.I.G. Shine. He was another guy. He shunned education. He's a savage too, talking about selling dope in the streets. Same thing with your Jay-Z, talking about he was a dope dealer. All these people, they were total they pretty much breathed new life in the old stereotypes. They fit this narrative of this white liberal, and this is what he wants to see. And the same thing with your Tupac Shakur. This mama's boy, pretty much fits the narrative of this Negro not having his father in his life. He comes from a female-headed household. He's so soft and weak, and he's such a sensitive guy. Really, all of these guys, they fit within the narrative of this white liberal. They tell the story that he wants to hear regarding the Negro, because when he has to look at old school rappers that were talking a different message, he doesn't like that message, because those black men and women look like black men and women he was going to have to compete with. They looked like they were promoting a message. When again, with the Cosby Show, they're promoting a message that many of these Negroes just don't want to. Not the Negro doesn't want to hear it these days, but most white people didn't want to hear regarding black people that they were intelligent, hardworking, professional, and they were presenting an image that black people were human, and black people didn't want, not black people, white people didn't want to hear that message regarding black people. So the white liberal comes along, and he creates his own hip hop that fits that and finds Negroes that will fit his narrative and tell his story regarding hip hop. And that's what we have today. Negroes who present the white liberals' view of black people and present black through a white lens, and the image of black that was created from, I'd say, about 1978 to 1988. That image, it's still out there, but nobody wants to follow that image because it doesn't fit within the stereotype or the narrative of this white liberal. And I look at hip hop, and we have to take it back, because, the NWA created this decline, but the Negro has a chance to take it back from him and make it his own again, because, again, this is not our image. This is what somebody else wants us to look like, what they want to hear from us, and the story that they want told regarding us. And this is why I say it's important for the Afro-American to control his own image, because when he controls his own image, he gets a completely different story. When you look at the old school hip-hop, again, you see men who can wear their pants that fit. You saw men who could speak intelligently. You saw men who could rap articulately and talk about certain issues. You saw men becoming active on a political platform like your KRS-One or your Chuck D. You saw people taking constructive action. But when you see the white liberal, you see a lot of people being profane. You see a lot of people being hypersexualized. And you see all sorts of deviancy and debauchery. And this is what he wants to see regarding hip-hop. And most importantly, he doesn't want to see any political action. Because if we look at the actions of many of these gangster rappers and thug rappers, not a single one of them, yes, they'll rap about police brutality, but you won't see them at a city council hearing to speak on it. You won't see them, leading a voter drive to get black people to go out and get the vote. You won't see any of these rappers taking any sort of constructive action. Yes, they have no problem taking the Negro dollar and making themselves rich, but they will not make an effort to enrich the African American community through their music. And this is one of the reasons why I don't want to bother with gangster rap. Around the 1991-92, I just stopped bothering with rap altogether. And I just said to myself, you know what, if this is the direction that hip-hop is going in, I don't want anything to do with it. Saw the decline, coming, and I said enough is enough and just stopped bothering with it. And I look at this music, and it's sad to see this art form, taken from its zenith in the mid-'80s to this abyss that it's now, where everybody is monolithic, everybody is preaching the message of the white liberal. And the sad part is many of the Negroes today have no idea that in their attempts to keep it real, they are following the narrative of the white liberal and breathing new life into the same old stereotypes that the liberal and white supremacists made up about this Negro in the 1930s. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.